Welcome to the Improve Work podcast. I'm your host, Daniela Tancău, an HR consultant helping entrepreneurs and team leaders build motivated, high-performing teams. Here we talk about leadership, employee motivation, and other topics that enhance your ability to lead, whether you are an entrepreneur with a team, a business owner planning to build one, or a leader in a company. You'll gain practical advice and insights from me and my guests, experts in the field and entrepreneurs who share their leadership experiences. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe to stay updated on every episode. Let's dive into today's topic. Hi everyone, welcome to the Improve Work podcast. Thank you for being here. If you are a team leader or aspire to become one, this podcast is for you. Here we discuss various types of skills and knowledge that team leaders need about employees' behaviors, employee motivation, and everything in between. Follow the podcast to see every new episode that is released and rate the show to help us grow and reach more people. Okay, this episode is a solo episode and I'll talk about how team members of a company obtain authority and influence in that company. Having a team leadership position, for example, obviously gives the person who has it authority, but as we'll see, they may not always use it. And there are other forms or ways to gain authority and influence than job position. It's important to understand who influences decisions and people in an organization and how you as a leader are influenced by others. So people have different levels of authority and influence in a company. And as a starting point, it is essential to define the terms of authority and influence. In the sociology dictionary, authority is defined as a relationship through which a person or a group accepts as legitimate the fact that their decisions and actions are guided by an external instance, either a person or a group. Authority represents a form of acceptance that is different both from forced acceptance due to coercion and the exercise of power, and from acceptance based strictly on conviction. Authority represents a legitimate power. On the other hand, influence is the effect that somebody has on the way a person thinks or behaves. It is mostly based on persuasion. And in the Cambridge Dictionary of Sociology, it is defined as pressure that gets someone to do something they would not otherwise do, when this someone acts in a conventionally voluntary manner. And for a better understanding, let's see the differences and connections between the following key concepts: authority, power, legitimacy, and influence. So, first, both authority and influence are forms of power. And the concept of power is defined as the capacity of a person to impose his or her will within social relationship, despite any resistance encountered and regardless of the factors that determine this capacity. Anything that confers on a person or a group a certain control over what others need and desire can be considered a resource of power. Power accepted as legitimate by those over whom it is exercised becomes authority. Legitimacy is distinct from legality. It refers to the belief that a rule or a person has the right to govern. It is a judgment about the rightfulness of a hierarchy between a ruler or rule and its subjects, and about the subordinate's obligations toward the ruler or rule. When power is recognized, it is legitimate, and people conform not necessarily because they will be sanctioned if they don't, but because they believe it is the right thing to respect that rule or that ruler. And when power exercised over others is not recognized as legitimate, there will be tensions and conflicts which can lead to change, of course. Influence does not require legitimacy. Therefore, not everyone who has influence has authority. Max Weber, a key figure in sociology, talks about three fundamental forms of the legitimacy of authority: about tradition, charisma, and rational legal. And let's take each one in turn. Let's first talk about tradition. Here is the belief that what is established through tradition is sacred and enough to justify itself. Custom norms and values with which a group has identified over time have authority over its members. People obey not because of the personal qualities of the ruler or formal rules, but because it has always been this way. The position or role that has authority is hereditary, passed down through generations, and their power is seen as sacred or rooted in the divine. At a social level, monarchs, for example, base their authority on this type of legitimacy. They have the right to be named kings or queens based on the fact that they are part of the royal family. And the tradition proclaims that the royal family has the legitimate right to rule. Or another example, priests based their authority in this type of legitimacy. And at an organization or company level, we have, for example, family owned businesses. Authority is passed down based on tradition rather than formal merit based selection. So, for example, the founder's son or daughter becomes CEO because this is how it has always been done. Employees accept this because they respect the family legacy. Let's talk about charisma. This refers to the acceptance of a person's authority based on their exceptional qualities or perceived extraordinary abilities. People follow them and respect their authority not because of tradition or formal rules, but because of their personal appeal, vision, and ability to inspire others. An example is Mahatma Gandhi. People followed him because of his unique methods of non-violent resistance and his strong connections with the masses. And in an organization, the founder may naturally become the authority figure because employees believe in their vision and personality. Employees follow the founder's decisions even outside formal hierarchy because they are inspired by their energy, confidence, or maybe vision. Or could be an informal leader who gains authority through their personality, confidence, and ability to influence others, even without holding a formal managerial position. And for example, Steve Jobs from Apple is one of the clearest examples of charismatic authority in business. Employees and teams often followed his vision because of his intense personality, storytelling ability, and strong belief in product design. His authority went beyond formal structure. And another example, Elon Musk from Tesla and SpaceX has a strong charismatic influence over teams and public perceptions. His ambitious vision, Mars colonization, electric cars revolution, motivates employees to follow him even in high pressure environments. Then we have legitimacy based on rational legal. Legitimacy is given by formal rules, laws, and procedures. People obey not because of tradition or personality to a ruler, but because they accept the legality of the system and the right of those in authority positions to command within their defined sphere of competence. Conformity or obedience is not towards those who command, but towards the role they have, roles that are defined and specify what they can do, request from others, and what their power limits are. So, conformity is explained through the acceptance of the rules and procedures that govern the system that they are in. And this type of legitimacy includes the acceptance of authority on the basis of personal and professional competencies and of hierarchical position, which provides both the possibility of making more well-founded decisions and a socially recognized right to make decisions. In an organization, some elements of authority may be formally given and recognized, for example, through a job position, or different levels of autonomy in decision making, and other elements of authority may stem from a person's character or charisma or the unique expertise they possess. And we'll talk about authority facilitated by job position, authority based on expertise and competence, charisma-based authority, and a fourth one, authority conferred by being the employee's representative or a trade union leader. And the first, and we'll talk first about the authority facilitated by job position. So different job positions imply different types of rights over others and certain levels of autonomy to make decisions. These rights are established through job descriptions, internal structures, work processes, rules, or decisions. And although the team leader position, for example, comes with a lot of rights for the job holder and also obligations of those who are managed by the team leader, these rights are not always exercised and these obligations are not always respected. There could be different reasons for this. They may not know how to use their authority, or they may consider it too inconvenient to use it. And let's talk about this last case when the team leader prefers to avoid the discomfort that comes with using their authority. And the authority can be used in multiple forms. They can organize the work, assign tasks and roles, give different levels of autonomy to their team members. They can ask team members to request approval before proceeding with different actions. They can set priorities. They can resolve disagreements and conflicts. They can set standards for work and behaviors, etc. And in theory, all these look fine. But in practice, things may derail. And let's take some example to exemplify this. So a team leader may have assigned a project to a team member, but because another member questions that decision, wanting that project for himself or herself, the team leader assigns that person to the project too. So the team leader changes his decision not to upset that person. This leads to using two people when one would have been enough, could prolong the project because now the two members need to discuss and complete the project together. And of course, disagreements may occur. And most probably, the results of the project will be different than if it had been done by a single person. This sets a precedent, and other decisions regarding tasks may be changed for the same reasons. All these consequences and others occur because the leader couldn't keep the first decision. Another example, work standards might not have been met by a team member, but because giving feedback on this matter might upset that team member and affect the relationship, the team leader doesn't say anything. And the issue will most probably repeat, and eventually the team leader will talk with the employee, but by that time the issue and the effects of that issue have grown. Also, not intervening when team members don't respect each other's roles or when their roles are not clear is a recipe for disorganization, conflict, dissatisfaction among employees, and poor work results, right? And here is about overcoming the discomfort of confronting people who cross boundaries or don't respect rules, overstep their responsibilities, or interfere with those of others. Now, if you happened to make one of these mistakes, don't be too hard on yourself. Even those team leaders who use their authority and they use it well sometimes lose their way. They are tested too. Also, being able to use the authority that comes with team leadership position implies a set of skills. And if you need support in developing those skills, don't hesitate to book a consultancy session with me and let's start making things better and easier. You'll find a link in the show notes. Expertise and competence can create authority. When a company has just one expert in an area, that person's power is higher than if the company had more people with the same expertise. The company relies on that person to complete certain tasks and guide others. And that person's activity, decisions, or advice are less questioned because, in some cases, even if they explain what they are doing, they may not be understood. So, for example, when only one employee understands legal or compliance requirements, that person becomes essential in decision making. The company relies on them to avoid the risk and ensure proper actions are taken. Or if just one team member can make financial reports, the management depends on these persons for those reports. Their interpretation of the numbers is accepted without much questioning. Or when someone has significantly more experience than others in a team, their opinion tends to carry more weight. The team looks to them for direction, especially in certain situations. Let's talk about charisma-based authority. As mentioned earlier, a company can have members whose authority is conferred by their charisma, by their extraordinary qualities, or their capacity to inspire others. The charismatic member of the company may or may not have a job position that includes the right to lead others or the right to make decisions that impact others. It could be, for example, an informal leader or a team leader or CEO who, although they have formal rights to lead others, primarily exercise their authority through their charisma. Being the employee's representative or a trade union leader confers authority. This is an authority that is not based on a job position or competence, nor on charisma, but is exercised within the organization, and it is worth mentioning, especially nowadays when we frequently hear about large-scale layoffs. I know that things are different in Europe and the US regarding trade unions. Here in Romania, every company with more than 10 employees must negotiate a collective labor agreement and needs to have an employee's representative if it doesn't have a union trade. Management needs to inform the employee's representative about major decisions or plans, such as mass layoffs and salary changes that affect employees. Once I was invited to a job interview just because my last name was the same as the trade union leader of that company. They assumed that I was related to that person. They asked me in the interview if I knew him, and I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't have invited me otherwise. I traveled to another city, spent time and money just to attend an interview that most probably happened just because of this coincidence. And I think he must have been a powerful person in that company, right? But let's take a concrete example. At Volkswagen in December 2024, union leaders succeeded in changing management decisions to cut jobs. They had announced that they would cut over 35,000 jobs. And after 70 hours of negotiations, according to CNN Business, they reached an agreement that there would no be immediate site closures, layoffs, or wage cuts. And according to CNN, the deal would allow savings of 15 billion euros annually in the medium term. According to Wall Street Journal, no immediate forced layoffs were allowed and no factory closures in the near future. Workers accepted no pay increases for several years and reduced bonuses. And in exchange, the company agreed to job protection until 2030. Job cuts are still happening, but differently. Even though there are no forced layoffs, Volkswagen plans to reduce over 35,000 jobs in Germany. This will happen through early retirement, voluntary departures, not replacing people who leave. So jobs are being reduced, but indirectly. Let's talk now about the situation in which the authority is not recognized. So the appointment to different positions is carried out according to certain requirements defined both externally by occupational standards and laws regarding employment in various roles, and internally by certain requirements of top management or internal conditions of that company. A company can define its own roles and job positions within legal limits, of course, and it can establish its own rules, processes, and practices. When a company member is invested with authority through his or her job title, but the process through which he or she was appointed is seen as incorrect or is not transparent, the other members may question this person's authority and may even not accept to follow this person's requests. This person's authority is not seen as legitimate. This is because the rational legal type of authority that Max Weber talks about is the most common type of authority we encounter in organizations, especially in democratic countries. Have you seen, for example, team leaders who were not accepted as leaders or whose directions were not followed? It could be when someone is promoted to a team leader position without going through an evaluation process for that position, when the promotion criteria were not transparent, or when not all employees who could occupy that position were taken into consideration, and this is seen as unfair to them. It could also be the situation in which the person appointed to a certain position doesn't demonstrate that they have what is needed to be in that role, or they may lack certain skills or competence. They may not have experience or make poor decisions. The company's culture and structure can impact the authority that different members have. So, when an organization is flat, meaning that it has just a few hierarchical levels, the distance between that company's members is small. And it's much easier for all team members to have access to one another, to interact and communicate freely. So, for example, a simple engineer can talk directly with the CEO and discuss an issue he or she has observed and resolve that issue quickly. Or vice versa, the CEO may interact directly with the engineer, find out about an issue, and authorize him or her to take certain actions to solve it. And these kinds of things do not happen in organizations that have many hierarchical levels. In these organizations, communication and interactions between members are filtered through these levels. Decisions and changes happen more slowly. Another example, a company's culture may focus on employees taking ownership of their responsibilities, which in a way gives them permission to take initiatives, to be proactive, and, for example, ask for the meetings they need to have, ask for the resources they need, and come up with different proposals and solutions. And once they are given a task or a project, they are expected to do whatever they consider necessary to complete it within the pre-established boundaries or rules, of course. And we can say that their authority and autonomy in their roles depend largely on their ability to accomplish the task they are given. Also, a company culture may attribute more significance to certain departments and therefore to their members, and less significance to other departments and their members. So, for example, the production leader may be considered more important and taken more into consideration than the human resource manager, who may not even be invited to different conversations within that company. Many companies, especially in tech and product-oriented industries, place a high value on engineering or IT teams because of their direct impact on products and revenue. And other departments like finance, HR, and support are seen as less important and as second tier. So therefore, these departments' members may be excluded from strategic meetings and discussions, and they are given less influence and less authority. Let's discuss now about different sources of influence in an organization. As mentioned at the beginning of this episode, influence is the power to affect or change someone's opinions, actions, and behaviors. and is different by authority because it is not based on legitimacy. It works mainly through persuasion, social interaction, trust, emotional appeal, or social pressure. And let's talk first about influence facilitated by character traits. A person's own character may make a difference between them and the rest of the members. Their character may influence how much they get involved in different situations and decisions, and how visible they are or they try to be through their actions and behaviors. So, for example, in a development team, one engineer is naturally curious and assertive, often volunteering to solve tricky bugs and propose improvements. And even though all engineers have the same formal role, this person becomes highly visible to management and other team members because of their initiative, because of their willingness to step in different situations. Also, some people have lower or higher levels of power needs. Those with high power needs may strive more to influence others and occupy positions of authority. And they may take on leadership roles in teams, even if they are not formally appointed as leaders, and they may seek out certain information, tasks, or responsibilities that give them influence. Close relationships with key company members can increase a person's influence. A member of a company can gain influence through association with a powerful member of that organization. That member can be, for example, one of the numerous team leaders within the company, but because they have a closer relationship with the CEO, for example, and are in constant communication with that CEO, they may have a bigger influence because they have more time spent with that important person. Let's talk now about the influence based on likability and trust. People are influenced because they like, respect, or identify with someone. For example, employees follow the suggestions of a colleague they trust, even if that person has no formal authority. Or a popular team member's opinion may carry more weight in group decisions than the opinions of those more experienced but who are not liked. Okay, we are at the end of this episode. I hope it helps you better understand the degree to which you are using your authority, become more aware of the blockages that prevent people from stepping fully into their roles, and understand how other members can obtain and exercise influence in an organization. If you want to explore this topic further, I'll publish an extended blog post for subscribers by the end of this month, April 2026. Thank you for watching and listening to this episode. See you next time. Employee motivation is essential for any business success, but few employers know what motivates their employees. Without any or with little action towards finding out the personal motivational drivers of their team members, employers' attempts to motivate employees risk not having a positive impact on their motivation. It's like trying their luck to see what action works and what doesn't. Or they may treat all employees as if they are all motivated in the same way. They are not. So instead of taking actions without knowing the employees' motivational drivers, it's more efficient to first know what motivates them and then determine what actions to take based on this information, right? I've created a program exactly for this purpose. It's named How to Motivate Your Employees so they care for your business and help you grow it. The program helps identify how employees perceive 7 key aspects of their jobs that impact their motivation, what they appreciate, and what are their expectations. Then the program shows how to use this information in creating action plans for each employee to increase their motivation. It also helps with identifying common or shared perspectives among employees that can lead to action plans for all of them to increase their motivation. If you join the program, you receive recorded sessions that help you understand what you need to do and why, a framework to conduct individual interviews with your employees, and my direct help through live coaching sessions where you can address your questions and receive support in implementing the program. If you are interested, book a call and let's talk more. Now, I know that some entrepreneurs and CEOs think that it's not their job to conduct such a program, and some of them don't even like the human resources part of the business. If you find yourself in one of these situations, I can say that the role of a team leader requires having knowledge about employee motivation. Leading means not only organizing work, but also motivating team members to do that work. Understanding what impacts motivation, which is covered in this program, and discussing these aspects with employees will help you create stronger connections with them and understand what actions will increase their motivation. And although you'll spend time on this program, you'll gain it all back through the advantages that motivated employees bring to a company. I'm sure you know that motivated employees perform better and achieve better results than those who are disengaged. They also have more positive attitudes towards their jobs and the company. The work environment has less conflicts and is more collaborative, and they tend to stay longer with the company. These are major benefits that will help your business thrive. So book a call and let's talk. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you found value in this podcast, one way to support us is by subscribing. For more tools and insights to enhance your leadership skills and your employees' motivation, visit my website at improvework.ro. There you'll find a variety of online programs and courses. You can also book a free consulting sessions or a discovery call with me. I love to connect and support you on your leadership journey. See you in the next episode.